Second day of spring.
Oh, I ain't gonna live
Ridiculous.
like this no more. Most of my life's been waging war. Till I found peace, I could've swore. What she did shook me to the core, and I ain't gonna live like that no more. Well, I ain't gonna live like this no more. Trouble comes when the barmaid pours another for a man who should have found the door. Oh, when I get going, you can hear me roar. And you know I can't live like this no more. Oh, I ain't gonna live like this no more. Hurting as bad as the years before. Living in a lie I can't ignore. Oh, I had to cut ties to settle the score. I ain't gonna live like this no more.
I want to get completely done with electrical so I can move on to the plumbing. And I need to get 12 3-wire pulled over to these switches so I can have both switches at both doors basically that can control the shop lights. I have one circuit left of outlets I also have to wire along that back wall. And I also need to cut in a couple of outlets. I don't have very many outlets on the outside of the shop, and I also need to get the 3 lights that I bought for that front porch secured. It's not a ton of stuff, but it's enough stuff to keep me busy. But I want to get done with the electrical so I can get that door officially cut in. It's warm now. It's getting nice outside. It's getting messy. It's going to be a mess for a while. Because of the angle at the sun at this point in time, our batteries get charged so much faster than they do in like January. So I want to get all the electrical stuff figured out. The other night, Cedar and Reed were gone, and it was just myself and Callie here at home, and I was a tiny bit bored, I think. But since I put that light in out in front here, that light that I made, the barn light that I made for the front of the house, I've never turned that on because I never could remember how I officially tied it in. It was an afterthought, and I thought I tied it in the attic switch. And when I was redoing the roof last summer, I checked the attic switch, and that wasn't there. Finally, the other night, I sat down, and I pulled up one of my old videos, like I should have done 2 years ago. And I watched the first series of videos when I was wiring that upstairs, and I discovered that I had another outlet that I had covered over with drywall. So I cut that open, I got that fixed, and miraculously the last couple of outlets that didn't work in our master bedroom, and that light now works. And so I think that means I've officially resolved every issue that I had in the house with electrical. I didn't have many, but I did have a couple of outlets that weren't working. And so what I would like to do with the shop before I start hanging drywall and things like that is I would like to just make sure that everything's in order. I'm going to have my son-in-law Christian help me wire up these 3-way switches. I'm going to make sure that the lights on the outside, that everything's working before I button everything up. So the plan for today is to try and get as much done on the electrical as I possibly can. I would love to tell you that the electrical out here in the shop is one of my favorite things to contemplate and think about, but the bottom line is it is not. It might just be that anything that requires 100% of my attention gets the old engine too close to redlining. I prefer to do jobs that do not require that kind of attention, so when I have to do them, they have a tendency to get drawn out a little bit. It seems to be the details is where I struggle, and really that's all that I have left. I need to trim out the boxes and get everything ready for the inspection, but the hard stuff is done. I need to pull a little bit of wire for some three-way switches and nail off some of the wires up in the attic, and that's basically it. The one thing I did do is I put outlets everywhere I could possibly think we would need them. But like the house, the overall electric system is pretty simple. The only place I have 220 is near the panel, which will be a plug for my welder, but other than that, there's only one other place that I'm going to need 220, and that's for the lift, but I technically probably need to wait until after the inspection is done before I lay that in the attic. But once the bedrooms and the shop is completely finished, I'm going to install an automotive lift that I can use as I'm working on different projects. I've talked about this in the past, and this is a good opportunity to talk about it again, but since the very beginning when we started looking at land, whether or not we would live in a county that required permits for building was something that we took into consideration. As you drive into the county that we live, there are signs that say, this county requires building permits. While there are other counties in Idaho that only require what are called state inspections. But there are yet still places above and beyond that that require almost no inspections to build. And it is my opinion that permits and property values go hand in hand. I have had the spare tire delete kit waiting to be installed on Cedar's Jeep for about 2 months now, and the shop is just clean enough that I can get the Jeep inside and stay warm. But we have absolutely loved this Jeep. But at this exact moment, it has a recall on the injection pump on the motor, and although we haven't had any problems, we are actively waiting for that to be replaced. But as soon as we exceed the mileage for the drivetrain warranty, this thing's going to lose a little bit of weight, And I'm anxious to see just how efficient the 3-liter EcoDiesel can be without all the restrictions on the exhaust system. But in my opinion, this Jeep Wrangler EcoDiesel is another example of over-regulation, which has shown to do more damage than good, and it sounds like it's ultimately going to lead to the diesel being removed from the Jeep Wrangler in the future. So, we're going to keep this thing for a long time, and I want to take care of it, but I've never liked the spare tire bouncing off of the back of the tailgate, and 99% of the driving that Cedar does is mostly local, so that's why I'm installing the Delete kit. I have a brand new factory lift kit for this Jeep that at some point, when Cedar wants it installed, I'll install it. But it's the factory lift that's installed on the Wrangler Rubicon diesels, and it will give this diesel about a 2-inch lift, which is all we really want. I must say this is the vehicle for where we live. We have had to use the Jeep to get a few different vehicles around here unstuck, and we're grateful to have it. I have to reroute the brake light wires and the camera wires to get both the brake light and the camera to work correctly with the new Delete kit. It didn't take too long and it looked much better than the original spare tire mount. It is my opinion that the Jeep Wrangler might be the most American vehicle ever made. Going back to the original World War II flat fender Willys, they've always been capable vehicles. And I really hope we have this thing for a long time to come. And I also hope that we have nothing but good things to say about the diesel engine that is in the Jeep. But like I said, once she hits the mileage limit on this thing, delete as soon as possible. There's a badge on the tailgate that tells us exactly where it was assembled here in America, but the engine as well as a few other things had to be imported. But I've got to guess this is one of the last ones that's made here in the good old US of A. So back to the conversation around building permits and whether or not it's worth the headache to live in a county that requires building permits. This is how I look at it. And again, I'm not passing judgment on anybody. I'm simply talking about my life and as it applies to me. But here is the bottom line. Whether I like it or not, someday somebody else will own this property. And when the time comes that my wife and or my kids have to sell the place, my hope is they get the most value they possibly can out of it. And the bottom line is, if you compare counties with requirements around building codes versus counties that have none, you will see that not only are the property values lower in counties that don't have building codes, but often crime and many other things correlate with the low property values. So that is where I see the value in the permitting process. But I've most definitely had times in my past where I felt the overreach of the permit as well. The cost of all of the permits that we have gone through thus far associated with our house, from the septic inspection through all of the framing, electrical, all of the other inspections that I had to get, both the state and local inspections, the cost of those permits was still very affordable in our county. And for that I'm grateful, because from the county that we moved about 8 years ago, a very particular county in Arizona, I would have probably spent more than what I spent to build my entire house on just the permits to build in that county. Because that county has things like impact fees. And last time I checked, it was like $30,000 just to move into that county and build a house. Oh yeah, and if you want a water meter, it can be anywhere from $10,000 to as much as $20,000. And of course, there are many other permits to go with that in that particular county. But back to our place here and the permits and the inspections that are required, my feelings are there are just enough at the moment. All right, I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty where I basically just have to prep the boxes and get everything nailed off before the inspection is done. There's a little bit I have to do over here on the bedroom, but the hard stuff is done. So my goal for today is to get everything done, get it all the boxes wired and prepped for inspection, all the wires nailed off. Anything that needs to be done on this side of the shop, same thing. I'm just literally gonna try and get everything 100% done, and then get the inspection ordered. So. I hope that my family never has to sell this place, but by going through the permitting process and doing what it takes to get things inspected and passed, in the end it makes the place more valuable and much safer on top of that, because things are built to the current building codes that the county requires. And after going through the winter that we just did, we are getting firsthand examples of why building codes are so important. Whenever the snow gets super heavy, it's usually many of the older buildings that everybody worries about. But the snow is so heavy this year that I'm certain it's the most weight we've ever had on both the house and the shop. And as heavy as that snow was, I felt confident that the house and the shop were both going to be just fine. Because I tried to build our house to at least the 100-pound snow load, which I thought could easily happen up here. So if you're looking for cheap land and if you don't care how many cars your neighbor has on blocks, then look for a county that doesn't have any permits of any kind. But I will say this, when it comes to plumbing and electrical, these are both state inspections, and when it comes specifically to plumbing, because of the potential for danger with cross-contamination, the state has the ability to step in and do things that they wouldn't otherwise do. And as a plumber, this is very important to me. So by the time you're seeing this video, I have already ordered my state electrical inspection, and I'll go through the process of getting the entire shop inspected in the next few days, and then I'll report back, and you'll find out again just how much I like the permitting process. Let me tell you one more reason why I like the idea of building permits and specifically building codes. It requires skilled labor. And I, as you know, am skilled labor in the form of a journeyman plumber. I like the idea that something as important as plumbing requires somebody with the skills and also an inspection to go with it, just to make sure nobody else is in danger. By the way, we've had at least 4 major explosions from gas leaks in our county so far this year. Again, I want to say, as far as the building permit issue is concerned, these are my feelings about this particular topic and my place. What you choose to do is your business, and best of luck in the process.
I'm cold.
It's recording.
Yeah, it is. I breathe on it like fog.
That's what Reed does every time he gets near the camera. All right, I have Cheyenne and her husband Christian up here to help me. Basically, Christian went over everything with me, told me it looked amazing, told me he'd never seen anybody with so many skills.
That's a stretch.
Oh, really? He said I might pass
It looks good.
I might pass my inspection. But I don't like three-way switches, and I want Christian to wire them up correctly so I know that both sides are working. And they even brought me pizza. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, please don't shock my husband, because I don't know if I'll find another one.
oh, come on, if he hasn't been hit by there we go. If he hasn't been hit by by more than 110, he's not a real electrician.
I've only had like 277 once.
Don't forget to go check out Cheyenne and Christian's channel, Create 208. Also, Christian is a journeyman electrician.
Go Christian! Go Christian! Whose hair is that?
Where?
I'm totally putting that in the video. That's a blonde hair. That's a brown hair. That's his mom's hair.
I think it's
My
his.
sisters.
Your sister.
Your sister has black hair. It's pretty likable though.
But you have to like wash your own clothes and you have to cut your own food.
Yeah.
What's
and
that about?
I have to wash Christian's clothes and cut Christian's food.
So it worked out perfectly.
Huh. Actually, I don't have to cut Christian's food because it already comes pre-cut. It's pizza.
True.
Did you have 3 kids by the time you were 25?
22, 26 probably. 3 kids. Sage was born, I had my 22nd birthday, and then she was born 3 weeks later. Then 2 years later, you were born. Yeah, maybe. This coming June, Cheyenne and Christian will celebrate their 1-year anniversary, and we are incredibly proud of both of them. We love having Christian in our family. Never
Okay,
once
flip
have
them
I
on.
ever.
Just
You good?
you?
Alright, you ready? This back bay. Front bay.
Okay, and then what about the other lights over here? Sweet.
Check them
Those are off. Bam!
Those are bright.
Bro. Those seem like they're brighter than the ones I got in the shop. Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
I
gotta
ordered for
go
some.
put this jacket inside, so.
Let's Okay, the plan was to get the new opening framed in, and then I've decided to just go ahead and go rent the equipment to saw cut the concrete because the road is so bad, and it's going to be so bad for a while that I'm not going to be able to get anybody up here. And I think I can handle this myself. So next week, that's what this is going to be all about, is getting the opening cut in as I'm waiting for this inspection to get done. That's the other issue. I may have to drive down and pick the inspector up. There's still a few more cold days, it looks like, and I'm hoping we can time it on one of those cold mornings so it's not too much of a muddy mess. But so on our next video, it's going to be all about the plumbing in the bathroom, getting the tankless water heater roughed in, all that stuff that I've got to get figured out associated with that bathroom, as well as getting this opening cut in. And hopefully, every time I say this, I swear we get 18 inches of snow like we did this week. But hopefully, I'm done plowing snow. I didn't even get my camera out to film plowing snow because there's only so many ways you can make plowing snow look interesting. But I can tell the ground is thawing out rapidly, which basically means I'm not going to be able to plow anymore very soon while we're waiting for it to melt off. So anyway, see you in a few days.